What are three major issues the Saints still need to answer? Good question. Ladies and gentlemen, New Orleans Football is the backdrop today. So we have spent a lot of time this offseason talking about all of the remedies that the Saints have made. The offensive line with Taliese Fuaga, pressuring the quarterback with Chase Young, adding depth with Willie Gay, the offensive staff with Clint Kubiak and Andrew Jidoko. We have gone over at length some of the things that they've done good, some of the things they've done appropriately this offseason. But here's the question. What do they still need to do? They're not a perfect team. I've said that a million times. This is not a team that's going to win the NFC. This is not a team that's going to go to the Super Bowl, barring a miracle. So what do they need to fix? What still do they need to answer? Here we are, New Orleans Football. Let's get into the video, react like only I can do. Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, get on down in the comments below. Let me know what you think are the three major issues that still plague the New Orleans Saints going into the 2024 NFL season.
The Saints were able to check off a lot of their needs this offseason, but I still think there's three major issues that they need to answer in training camp. I'm Nick.
All right, issue number one. So I have not really thought about this, but where are this? So you can look at this a couple different ways. One way you can look at this is, what do the Saints need to answer between right now, July, and the beginning of the NFL season? All right. What can they address? What do they need to answer? Then you could also say, like, what are still the weakest parts of the New Orleans Saints? So let's start first with answer. What do they need to answer? They need to answer their wide receivers. So we know Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. We don't really know the capacity in which Rashid Shaheed will be used. Will he be utilized as just a burner? Will he be utilized as a true number two? Or will he be utilized as some kind of combination? Regardless, they need to let us know who's going to be the three. Right? They need to let us know who's going to be the three, who's going to be the four. We keep hearing names: A.T. Perry, Equinemius St. Brown, Cedric Wilson, Bub Means. What's the order going to be? All right, what is the plan? What else do they need to answer? They need to answer the offensive line. The only thing that we really know right now, well, the two things we don't know is left guard and how Trevor Penning will work out at right tackle. So the combination of what is our five, where they're playing, what the plan is, what the vision is for that offensive line, that needs to be answered. All right. Another answer, I'm not sure if they can answer this, but another answer would be Chase Young. Right? Is Chase Young healthy? Will Chase Young be playing to start the season? Those are, off the top of my head, the main questions that they need to answer. All right, that they can answer, that they need to answer. Taysom Hill, also probably an honorable mention. How will we use Taysom Hill? Will Taysom Hill still be utilized as a quarterback? Will Taysom Hill be utilized as kind of a Deebo Samuel, or will he be a fullback? Like, what's going on with Taysom? As far as where are we the weakest, as far as like just from a team standpoint, what do we need to answer? It really kind of remains the same. Offensive line. Offensive line, did we take a step in a positive direction? I suppose you could say that with Taliese Fuaga. You could also argue that it was kind of a moot point because we're probably going to see Ryan Ramczyk retire whenever he first can retire. So it's kind of just stayed the same, right? We lost Ramczyk. We added Fuaga. Who knows how Penning will work out? So the offensive line is still the weakest part of the team, no doubt about it. The interior defensive line, I think, could probably be upgraded. Beyond that, skill position players, adding more wide receiver depth. But that kind of goes along to my first thing. All we really know is two. All we really know is Olave and Rashid Shaheed. We don't really know how the rest of the room shakes out. So obviously, when you don't know how the room's going to shake out, depth is something that needs to be added.
And you're watching The Dot, presented by Matt Powers Auto Group. I think low-key, the biggest issue this team's facing right now is the need to find who is the third wide receiver. Is it A.T. Perry? Is it Cedric Wilson? Is it St. Brown? It might be one of those guys, or it might be none of those guys. But
I mean, obviously, I agree. I just said that, but I don't think it's low-key, high-key, low-key one of the biggest issues. It is an issue, but you almost can't have a wrong answer. Like if you told me, oh, Cedric Wilson's the three, it's like, okay, cool. Oh, A.T. Perry's the three, all right, cool. Equinemius St. Brown's the three, okay. Like they're all the same, right? Like sure, some may have higher potential or however you want to look at it, but they're not that far off from each other to where I think there's like a right or wrong answer. There is a right or wrong answer with the offensive line. moving Trevor Penning to right tackle could prove to be a complete disaster. Whoever plays left guard could prove to be a complete disaster. Moving Taliese Fuaga to left tackle might be a complete disaster. So that, I believe, is what needs to be answered. That is the one. The offensive line Sudoku puzzle is the most important high key, low key that we need to answer.
After watching 6 practices this offseason, there are still not any clear answers at that spot. And I low key think that is a major issue for this team. We talked about the need to replace Mike Thomas all throughout the offseason, specifically with a physical wide receiver. And I don't know that we see that yet. So that,
yeah, I mean, that's a good point, right? Like Michael Thomas, even if he didn't play that much, even if he wasn't that impactful for the last couple of years because of injury, he still held a role. And that role of like a physical receiver, we aren't sure who that is going to be because Rashid Shaheed is as far away from that as possible. Chris Olave is as far away from that as possible. So maybe it's one of those things where they play like a matchup thing where the three is whoever they need in that specific play. It might be a per play basis. And I've kind of hinted at this before of, the NFL is changing to where your third wide receiver on the depth chart isn't always the third wide receiver on the field. It's all matchup dependent. It's all down and distance dependent. It's all, what the play looks like, what they're trying to do. So maybe that's what the plan is. Maybe the plan is to have Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed out there a majority of the time and then sprinkle in whatever need you need along with the tight ends, along with Taysom, along with Kamara and Kendra Miller. And that is kind of part of this offense where a wide receiver can be all kind of stuff. Our third wide receiver could be Taysom. Our third wide receiver could be Kamara. Our third wide receiver could be Kendra Miller while Kamara's on the field. Our third wide receiver could be Foster Moreau. It could be Jawan Johnson. You understand what I'm saying? So the third wide receiver, is it a third wide receiver or a third pass catcher? That is a question within itself.
That's something that's going to need to be defined during training camp. And I think the definition of that is going to play a big part in the upcoming season. Another spot is the interior defensive line. The Saints have good options at 3 tech. They have decent depth at the other spot. But I think that big body that you just...
Whoa, look at this. Look at this little motion graphic here. Unbelievable from the ladies and gentlemen over at New Orleans Football.
Is going to impact the running game. Sort of like how Tyler Davison used to do it is in need for this team. And I think their run defense getting better is something that's going to be very important to the team having the success that they...
Defensive line is it's similar to wide receiver, where it's like you have a bunch of names in the room, but you're not sure who the fifth person in the rotation is compared to the third person in the rotation. Same with the interior defensive line. So you've got about 6 guys in there. Who's the 2? Who's the 3? Who's the 4? Who's doing what? Who the hell knows? So with that confusion and with kind of that uncertainty, that's where you build in like, okay, we probably do need some answers before we kick off here. We do need to know like what the plan is, what the vision is.
They want to have on later downs, because if you're getting teams in deep situations on third down, you can rush the passer a little bit better. Yeah. And then maybe that 34 sack total goes up this season. And then the last spot is safety. I feel really good about Tyrann Mathieu at his spot, but is Jordan Howden ready to step into his role?
I'm kind of surprised he didn't say offensive line. I thought offensive line and like who's going to play where, left guard, what the situation looks like, the true finished crossword puzzle. I thought that was going to be a no-brainer. I thought that was going to be number 1. I thought that was going to be 1. I thought the wide receiver would definitely be up there. I'm kind of surprised here at safety. I'm not too, it is a, Jordan Howden, I guess, is, I don't want to say a weak spot, but he is kind of an uncertain spot with the whole Marcus May leaving. And, a good indicator of like what does need to be answered is that for, the New Orleans Football guys and even me who cover the team quite literally every day, if we don't know who the third wide receiver is, that's telling. If we don't know who like what your defensive line is, that's telling. If we don't know who's playing where on the offensive line, that's telling. There's not too many teams that at this point, their own like content creators or beat writers or however you want to phrase it, don't know who's the third wide receiver on the depth chart. In today's NFL, that's pretty wild. Like when you think about, and it's a complete toss-up too. It's not like, well, it's either A.T. Perry or Cedric Wilson. It could be any of like 4 guys. I have no idea. I would just be throwing a dart. If you ask me, hey man, who's the Saints 3? I would say A.T. Perry. But if Cedric Wilson is our third, is the third wide receiver on the depth chart, would I be surprised? Absolutely not. Would I drop my dome dog in sheer shock? No, I would not. So, the Saints are a unique team when it comes to some of that.
He missed this offseason, at least the team portion of practices, rehabbing a shoulder injury, and we didn't really get to see his.
Now, when I think about it, it does kind of make sense that the Saints are in that situation because of the new offensive staff. The new offensive staff can't say yet, really, who is starting in these spots. They're going to try some stuff out. They're going to try Fuaga at left tackle. They're going to try Penning at right tackle. They're going to try, Saldivari at left guard. They're going to try A.T. Perry at the third wide receiver. They're going to try they're going to try all kind of stuff. But until they see like legitimate reps, until they see, things like joint practices and even training camp, preseason games, until they see that, they probably don't know. They might have an idea. I'm sure Clint Kubiak has an idea of who's going to get the majority of those snaps, but until he sees it, I guess it makes sense that we're not totally sure what the offensive line or the wide receivers look like. And defensively, same thing, where it's like you lose Marcus May, okay, I think all of us assume Jordan Howland's going to take that step, but it is an unknown.
Progress yet, so that's a little bit unknown. We know Jonathan Abrams, all right, but another option at that spot, I think, would make it feel a lot better.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, I mean, we're in the dog days. We're in the dog days of summer. A lot of this stuff is going to get to fruition. A lot of this stuff, we're going to get close. A lot of this is going to, once preseason, training camp, joint practices, once we see real reps, once all that starts happening, we hear those interviews, all these answers are going to take shape very quickly. Very quickly. So, I mean, you can see it all over YouTube. You see a lot of people are talking about Quinn Ewers. They're talking about all kind of wild CeeDee Lamb to the same insane stuff. That's where we're at. So I don't think we're going to talk about Quinn Ewers getting drafted on this channel, but I am excited for the season to come. I'm excited for training camp. I'm excited for preseason. I'm excited for all that. I'm excited to see real reps because the journey this team is on, you have to kind of embrace that journey. You have to embrace the unknown of the offensive line, embrace the unknown of the wide receivers, embrace the unknown of the offensive staff. I can't wait. I cannot wait for the season to kick off. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know down below, what are the 3 major issues the Saints still need to answer? Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.